You have less health and a completely different playstyle and some of the most useless cards in Star Wars Battlefront 2. But dang, Specialists are a ton of fun to play. With the new progression system, I've played a lot of Specialists to level it up and finally hit level 70. Today we're going to talk about the current version of the Specialist, both good and bad. We're going to take a quick look at the weapons, and if you want details for each weapon, they all have their own individual breakdown video. What cards are worth it, which are not, and just general thoughts on the class. While Specialists can be really rough to play, having less health than the rest, it's really rewarding when you do well. The Specialist will test your ability to pick your fights wisely and your flanking route knowledge, since every weapon can pretty much two-shot you at close range. And it's also better, shockingly, in the smaller game modes like Blast and Strike than it is in Galactic Assault, for me at least. Before we dive in, if you enjoy this video, hit that like button to let me know, and then hit the subscribe and notification button so you know when new videos come out. And remember to join the streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central. Also, be sure to check out our partners at StarWarsGaming.net. They just put up a link to a video with some of the new cosmetics that may be coming out for customization, and are a great resource for the Battlefront 2 community. There will be a link in the description down below. When it comes to weapon choices for the Specialist, they differ from every other class in the game. None of the Specialist weapons, besides the A280CFE, have drop-off at range. What all DMRs do at close range, they do at long range, which makes them extremely reliable on the damage they deal. The A280CFE, however, does suffer from some drop-off, but also is more of your aggressive Specialist style weapon, and has honestly become one of my favorite weapons in the game. When we look at the damage each weapon does, you can see that the NT242 tops the charts, not only for the Specialist, but for all weapons available. It does 106 damage per round, and you can one-shot kill any trooper class with a headshot. Next we have the NT242 Disruption Shot, which does 99 damage per round, and following the NT242, the next highest damage is the IQA-11 at 66 damage per round. With the IQA, you can still one-shot kill Specialists with a headshot, but not any of the other classes. When it comes to damage, the initial weapon places 4th with 45 damage per round, and at the bottom of the pack is all versions of the A280CFE, which does 33 damage per round at close range and drops to 25 per round at long range. When you tack on the Ion Shot, it's the worst in class for damage at 29 damage per round at close and 22 damage per round at long. Where the A280 is the worst class for damage, it's best in class for the next two categories, which is rounds per minute and rounds available. The A280 with burst gets 180 rounds per minute, and without burst, it's at 360 rounds per minute. The DMRs are balanced out with their higher damage by their slower rates of fire. The IQA-11 can fire off 150 rounds per minute, and the NT242, while the best in damage in Star Wars Battlefront 2, has the worst rate of fire in the entire game at 75 rounds per minute. When it comes to weapons, it all comes down to what your playstyle is. Obviously, if you're more of a support, medium-ranged player, the NT242 is your best option here. It dominates at medium to long range with the ability to one-shot kill, but it really lacks up close with the slower rate of fire and only has 3 rounds available without the cooling attachment. You can make it work for you at close range, but overall, it's not going to be able to hold up at close range against the other classes. If you're like me and you're a close to medium range player or a madman or a chicken with your head cut off, the A280CFE with burst is the best option. The A280CFE can hold its own at close range where the other Specialist weapons can't, and it can still drop the other classes very effectively at medium range. When you start pushing long range, however, the burst does make it hard to land all the shots on target, and the damage drop off doesn't really help you. I actually like the A280CFE version over the Assault's A280 due to the faster rate of fire for the CFE. Again, it all does come down to preference though, and each weapon has their pros and cons. But if you're looking to level the fastest way possible, I recommend running the A280CFE with burst and in blast game mode. When it comes to the abilities, the Specialist is lacking in comparison to the other classes. The Specialist abilities are all very situational. They're so situational, you can go a whole match with only using Infiltration and ignoring the other two. The default abilities are Shock Grenade, Infiltration, and Thermal Binoculars. The Thermal Binoculars recently got a buff that allows you to spot enemy troops that you have a line of sight on. This can give you some battle points and help your team since you can spot groups of troops, but the downside is you need a line of sight, which means they can also see you. Infiltration has also gotten a slight buff with a rate of fire increase since release. It's still not fast enough though, but it's better than it was on release. The shock grenade hasn't received any buffs and is really just good to toss if you know someone's hiding around the corner because it'll make them panic and run out and then you can take them down. Now that we've reviewed the basic abilities, let's look at which cards are worth your time. For the left ability, the shock grenade, the only card I can find to somewhat run in its place is the repulsor cannon. This is primarily just to troll players, since you'll need to fire off both shots before you can change weapons fast enough to take the enemy down before they get up and just murder you. If you try to manually switch weapons, it's way too slow and the other person can get up before you fire off your first shot. You can also use it in Kashyyyk on Blast to knock people off the map, which is just evil and fun. And with that said, I don't really run it unless I'm bored and want to troll someone. The jury's still out on the Stinger pistol. It's really good if you're trying to make it so heroes can't heal and let your team take them down, and you can kill troopers with it. It is possible. It's just very hard to do, and it's kind of a pain since it doesn't do a whole lot of upfront damage. It does 5 damage to troopers, and then it does have a damage over time effect, and that does stack. But again, right now you need 4 to take down a specialist, and the rate of fire on that is not very good. For the right ability, the thermal binoculars, the best card in this slot would probably be the personal shield. While the thermal binoculars can give you some intel, personal shield really helps keep you alive a lot longer, and you can buy some time to melee enemies when you eventually get surrounded. I do sometimes run the personal shield, but I also tend to forget it's there, or more likely I become too cocky and I think I can win a gunfight that I really have no chance in winning. So normally I don't run it, but when I do and I use it, I always wonder why I don't use it more often. For infiltration, the only version worth running is the hardened infiltration. Hardened infiltration does not decrease the amount of time infiltration is active, unlike the other two, and reduces the damage you take. Now, it only reduces the damage by about 30% from my testing, and that's really not that much. But if you use infiltration on cooldown, this will reduce the cooldown to 18 seconds, which is really good if you run infiltration a lot. For the non-ability modifiers, I use 2 cards pretty much all the time and combine it with one of the others we talked about. The first one I always run is the stealth card. This card will increase the melee damage you do to 120, or I think it's 125 maybe. I should probably check that. I'm not going to. This is a 1-shot on a specialist and a 2-shot on everyone else. This is great when you find yourself in close range because you can pretty much panic knife and get a kill or 2. It also is a ton of fun to troll with melee only, and this is the best card to do with that. The second benefit of this card, and yep, there are 2 benefits, is that it keeps you off enemy radar when you fire. This is huge since you can be behind enemy lines a lot and fire at them without a red cone showing up in your direction. This can confuse some people who aren't really paying that close of attention to their hit markers and give you a few more seconds to land those follow-up shots that the other classes just don't get. This card is good for all game modes and all playstyles since it's really good to remain off the radar. And even if you're sniping, when someone runs up on you, you can melee him to death and it's very satisfying. The second card I generally always run with the specialist is the marksman card. This is due to the cooling on the specialist weapons being very bad in comparison to the other classes, and they all have the lowest number of rounds available. If you're sniping, this will prevent you from having to manually cool a lot, since every headshot will auto-flush your heat. If you're running an A280 CFE, while it's not as useful since you don't get as many headshot kills, every time you do it helps keep you in the fight a little bit longer. Since there's not very many clear options for the specialist, this one's nice to have around. The cards you should never run, it's every version of infiltration except for hardened. The kill streak cuts the active time from 24 seconds to 13 seconds, and at max rank only refreshes 55%. So you need to get 2 kills very quickly with the kill streak infiltration to get the same benefit of not having the card at all. And the Scrambler just tells enemies that you're nearby them by messing up their radar, and it lasts 17 seconds as opposed to 24. The other ability cards that improve your default abilities, like improved shock grenade and improved thermal binoculars, are also rather useless, since the shock grenade again is so situational, and the improved thermal binoculars was changed with a buff to increase the active spot time. Also, bodyguard isn't going to do you much good as a specialist, even with the reduction in explosives. Almost every explosive overkills you in this game, and adding bodyguard is not going to help you stay alive. So there's really no reason to run this card and have it take up a slot. The other cards we didn't talk about here, I'm still kind of out on whether they're worth it or not. Again, generally I run the A280 CFE or the NT242 with stealth, marksman, and usually personal shield. If I'm in Galactic Assault, I'll go ahead and pop on the Bounty Hunter just so that I can get a hero at some point, but really, normally I run the personal shield in its place. Originally, I loved the Specialist in the beta, and they were very strong. Even with the low health, Infiltration in the beta was definitely overpowered. With the release, Infiltration was nerfed into oblivion, and the class as a whole just feels kinda weak. While it still feels that way at times, the more you play it, the more fun it becomes. There are definitely some tweaks that need to be done to some of the cards to make them a more viable option, and the Specialist could really use a minor health boost. Even just up to 120 base health would be good. That way the Hardened Infiltration will put your health to around the 150 mark. I think it actually comes to 156 at 30%, and that's equivalent to what every other class has. This would allow the Specialist to at least survive one barrage from the officer turret instead of having it equal an automatic death if Hardened Infiltration is active. Also, a buff to the damage the Stinger Pistol does. Right now it's good to prevent enemy heroes from healing, and it can kill a Specialist in 4 shots. But replacing it honestly with the Flash Pistol would be a better option. Since the Assault class already has Toughen Up in the Flash Pistol in the same slot, there's really no reason to run the Flash Pistol over Toughen Up. By moving the Flash Pistol to the Specialist, that gives the Specialist a good secondary option for those close range engagements when they're caught trying to move forward and play the objective more, especially if they're used to sniping. It would also help make the Specialist a more versatile class and really make you feel more of a specialist or a commando behind enemy lines. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you in game.